Welcome to the Better Agent Podcast. If you're a real estate agent that's looking to grow your business, then you're in the right place. Whether you want to go from 5 to 10 transactions a year, or 10 to 50 transactions per year, or more, well then this show is for you. I'm Josh Lavik, your host for the Better Agent Podcast, and in each episode, we'll bring you the tools, tips, and tricks directly from myself and some of the best leaders within the real estate industry. We have one goal in mind, and that's to boost your production and elevate your real estate game. Let's dive in and start creating a better real estate experience together. Welcome to the Better Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Lavik, and I am joined today with wonderful guest and longtime friend of mine, Jean Armendariz-Kerr. And we're so excited to have you on the show and hopefully able to share some nuggets and wisdom for agents that want to grow their business. Agents that are maybe looking to go from 5 to 10 transactions a year, or maybe from 10 to 20 or 20 to 40 or 50. Who knows? My mission and goal in the show is really just to provide some value for agents out there that want to grow and get better and better every day. Without further ado, we'll launch into this and maybe give a brief intro, maybe starting with Jean. Jean, tell our listeners and viewers a little bit more about your story and how you got started in real estate and where we're at today.
All right. I am on my 24th year in real estate industry. Started out as an agent, like many, attracted to the idea of being my own boss. And that has done well for me over the years. I quit impulsively a 9-to-5 job when I just couldn't take it anymore and got my license in 2 weeks. So full-time, just hitting the books back in the days when we still did it via VHS tapes.
Oh, wow.
So that's how old I am in this industry.
Okay.
Seen a lot over the years. The transformation from basically we still used pagers and carbon copy papers and triplicate and fax machines all the way to where we are now. So it's been a very fun journey and I've picked up a lot of great stuff along the way. You know this, also picked up a law degree mid-career, became a broker mid-career, am now the broker owner of Mode Realty Network, did a brief stint through the Realtors Association Board of Directors, was elected president, all that kind of good stuff. So have worn many hats.
You are definitely a leader in the real estate world and making lots of big impacts all around the world. Definitely in our local association. I've worked with you a number of times, luckily, and had the pleasure to get to know you through that law career pathway as well. But yeah, no, that's an exciting pathway for a lot of people. I can certainly understand that many people might resonate also. It's tired of their traditional 9-to-5 or whatever job they're in. You know, a lot of times they do want to get into something with more maybe freedom, flexibility, or different variability within real estate. And that certainly was an attractive piece for you and I'm sure others out there as well. So yeah, so I have been in the real estate world, but not quite as long. So I first was licensed in 2005, so going on 19 years here, and also noticed several changes. I did start in the days of fax machines, though. I remember faxing offers over to people and things like that. But I got in really not sure if I wanted to even do real estate as a career. Honestly, I had got in, my mom was a realtor, and so I started working with her, and she was working on a condo project on the west side of Madison. I was wondering what my next phase might be as I'm in my mid-20s, and, thought I would do this maybe for a few years, but not long-term. And, what happened after 1 year turned into 2, and then started thinking, hey, maybe I could do this as a full-time career, and really started to get after it from there. And just every year just kept dedicating a little bit more and kept learning a little bit more, and my business continued to grow over the years. And so now just running a small team. We have a small team here at eXp Realty, and but I've been also at a couple other firms in the past, and so always looking to grow and improve myself. And that's part of why we're launching this podcast as well. So
awesome.
Yeah, cool. Let's see. So I wanted to, maybe we could start out with maybe just tell our listeners a little bit more about what do you think is, you've shared a lot of your story, but what do you think is maybe something, your superpower? What is something that you think you're really good at and why clients really choose to do business with you, and what makes you maybe stand out a little bit above others?
Sure. So my business is pretty much 100% referral based. Mm-hmm. And we have there's Mode as the brokerage, but then there's me as an agent. And I do residential and commercial real estate, and I buy and sell commercial and investment property as well for myself. So we cover a lot of different areas, and I practice commercial law as well. So I see many different sides of the industry and practice fairly broadly in the business sense. But I was not always in business. I actually have an art degree of all things. The information is hard fought. And for me, the niche that we fill and the reason why people send us business, and I'm working with somebody right now for the 7th time. I just closed a deal that was referred to me by a client I've worked with multiple times over 20 years. She just keeps sending me business. And the reason they send me the people that they love is because they know that we have a deep level of trust and a particular type of expertise. So for me, my entire focus is on the fundamentals, the details, and understanding things at a much deeper level. I talk about what we do in real estate as playing 4 degrees of chess. It's not just space. There's multiple cascading effects that as a result of every choice that you make. And so for us, people know when they send me somebody, we are going to do the full analysis and deep dive in that 4D chess arena with our clients with every single decision that they make. And so I talk people out of real estate a lot, but that gets me clients to talk about real estate with a lot as well, because you build up this sort of brand of trust and expertise. And for me, I'm first generation American. My mother's from China, my father's from Spain, and my mother she calls herself the reformed tiger mom. But there's a certain ethos and behavior and cultural training that comes with that, where it's like education is everything, drivenness, attention to detail, and a willingness to work hard and confront hard things and do hard choices for a long-term goal. And playing a long goal is very much part of that cultural ethos that I inherited from my mother, who also started a business in the 80s in Wisconsin. So we come to it from a perspective of, I'm going to learn absolutely everything that I need to know about every little detail, so that when I'm making decisions at the outset here on the surface, I'm going to understand fully all of the potential cascading effects that this decision here might have on my transaction, on my 5-year plan, 10-year plan, long-term future, and what the potential ramifications are. So I do that analysis with my clients starting with day one, whether it's at the listing appointment or the buyer consultation that we do. And for us, that is at the forefront. So we evaluate for people first whether or not they should move at all. And fairly frequently, the answer is not yet. You're not ready yet. You shouldn't do it yet. It's not going to meet the goals that you think you have when you have that deeper conversation. So from years of doing that, I've built up a lot of trust, which means I get very good, very strong referrals, where I very rarely, like if they're interviewing me and another agent, I'm highly unlikely to lose that because of that specific niche that people are sending people to me for. And the fact that we can talk about these wide varieties of topics lends itself to that branding. And I don't think everybody needs to have that brand. It is very work intensive to get the experience, expertise, the additional education, and all those pieces together. And that's not for everyone, right? There's 100 different ways to build this business. It's more finding your niche that is the thing that you can do because you're passionate enough about it that you will continue to do it over and over and over again until you have learned that muscle memory and it starts to come naturally and feel genuine. Because that's the flip side, is we also very much pride ourselves on being extremely genuine and completely honest with our clients. We don't cherry pick. We don't rosy colored glasses take looks at things. We criticize properties very heavily on the buy side, but also on the listing side. And we have high standards in terms of what we expect our sellers to do. We treat it very much as they're grown adults. We know what they need to do. We're going to not be shy with that advice on it. They know we're going to be absolutely honest with them. They appreciate that experience, and then they feed us business on the flip side.
That sounds pretty simple, right? You just really simple, excellent job. Dot all the I's, cross all the T's, do as much deep dive research as possible. But it's interesting you say you might talk people out of the deal, right? Because sometimes I've encountered maybe that's not always the case, right? Sometimes agents, especially if they're new or just getting started, they really want that deal to come together. Oh my gosh, they got to do
grab
this.
at everything.
Yeah, and so much it's almost just stepping back a little bit and having that counterintuitive sense. Do you really need this house or property, or is this really the right thing? And just pausing. I've noticed a similar scenario, and I've gotten certainly referrals in business because of that as well, in terms of maybe if you're pushing maybe too hard, then that's probably not the right deal.
Yeah, I have a person that I've been working with, and I've been telling her not to sell her house since 2022.
Okay.
And we have a little chit chat about every 6 months. And I go, "Are you ready yet?" And she said, "I'm not so sure." And I'm like, "Then why are we talking? Because you will be sure when it's right." And she just chuckles, and she's an older lady, and she actually dragged her son into one of our little chit chat meets because she wanted him to know me and get to know me and make sure that he knows if anything happens to her, I'm the person that he's supposed to call. So, so it's been 2.5 years of me telling her, "You're not ready yet, honey. Like, you're not there yet. It will feel right when it's right." But they send me business, and it was the right answer. So far, it's been the right answer. So
it'll be the right answer when it's the right time. I remember actually, our family recently moved in February of this year, and we had been in our house 12 years, so quite a while, and didn't necessarily need to move, right? Our house was probably big enough, but it was something else within the neighborhood, and the dynamics had changed, and our kids were getting bigger, and it was like, okay, I had a light bulb moment of, okay, I'm tired of one of my kids running out of the driveway, and there's cars coming down the street. We just needed a less busy street, so we're moving. And people I talk to all the time, I'm sure you do similar, right? They have a life change, something happens, they get a new job opportunity, whatever it might be in their life that's going on, is people aren't moving until something happens. And then they go from maybe like your friend in 2020, she's been thinking about it since 2022, but something's going to happen when it is going to be the right time. And that's going to be the moment she's going to call you. And you're going to
Exactly. And that's exactly it. When they know that you are going to be straightforward with them and set aside your own self-interest, then they trust you to help them make those challenging decisions. And that's part of my brand, is that it's easy to say, "Oh, all you do is put their interest forward." It's hard to do it. It takes emotional diligence to actually tell somebody, "You do not need my service." And I will joke about it with people, but I'll say, "This is how I taught myself out of business. Tell your friends." But you don't need me right now. You will need me in the future, and I'm always there for you. And I enjoy our conversations together, but you're not there yet. And that is saying no to sometimes millions of dollars of business in the short term, but it leads to the long-term game. And if somebody finds the love of this career, and if you've gone a year or two and you haven't found the love of the career, it might not be the career for you, because this can be a brutal career. There's a lot of rejection, and you say no and you do the right thing, and it doesn't always pan out. You just need to get it to pan out like 80% of the time. But for some people who struggle with the 20%, and they let that weigh them down, bog them down, and if they can't get over that in the first couple of years, they might be better on a team or a different sort of a situation, because it can be a very difficult slog. But once you've made it to that point where you've found your legs and your enjoyment and your affection for the career and the appreciation for the difficult parts, you're really then set up for that. This is going to feed me for another 20 years. And you get that muscle memory, and it becomes easier to say, "You don't need me right now," and not feel it urgently, because you have enough business that it's sustaining you even.
Totally. So that's actually a great segue. One of the things that came up while you were talking was, I think I was thinking about just you coming from immigrant parents and having this relentless drive and going to law school while also managing a career. Not everybody does that. That takes a lot of drive and persistence. And I have some people that come to me that maybe want to get into the real estate business, but they're not really sure. Maybe could I do it part-time for a little while, or do I have to go full-time, or what's the payoff? And I guess I wanted to hear your thoughts on that part-time versus full-time, and is it possible, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah. So It's hard to answer that question because I understand that the people who have made it past their 5th year in business are the people who have a very particular type of personality because we have such a high attrition rate. And this is not an easy or necessarily friendly career. It's highly social, but we're all competitors. We network well and we work collaboratively, but it's a business and it's not all playtime. And it takes a particular mindset to get there. And to me, you will find out as an agent in the first couple of years, one, if it's the kind of thing that you'll do it enough, but two, if you are going to be willing to confront the things that are difficult for you to do, and we will all have different things that we consider difficult, enough to make this successful. Believe it or not, I was fairly shy. I was not a good public speaker. I'm first generation. I knew nobody in Madison. So people will put up excuses or reasons for why they're not succeeding, why they can't do a thing and make something of it. And all of the reasons that people put in front of themselves as these roadblocks, they are really excuses. And when a person is willing to understand that and learn from that and do the things that are difficult for them, even though it's difficult, until they break through that resistance, that is the thing that will mean that they will have that long, successful career. And if clinging to a full-time job because you are afraid to basically take the water wings, the training wheels off, however you want to describe them, is a thing that you feel you need, and you'll always need that stability, this will be a very challenging career. You have to be willing to confront the scary things, which for a person who has a full-time job might be the instability of the career. There are ways that one can work around that. Can one be diligent enough in being extremely frugal in their life such that they build up the reserve necessary while also doing the mental themselves in a space where they see the potential for success and they're willing to do the things that are difficult for them? If those things come together in year one, where you can say, I don't need to have XYZ things that I'm comfortable and accustomed to having because I'm going to set aside the funds that I would have spent on that into my reserves so that I can chop my job at a specific date and just go hard. And I know that I'm the type of person where I'm going to set myself a strategy with meaningful, actionable items that I'm going to do every single day in, day out without fail because I owe it to myself. And I worked hard to get to the point where that was going to be a strategy for me. And I have done the analysis and I know this is going to work. And I have done the personal work, looked at myself and said, what are the things that I'm going to put in my own way? And I have done the work to clear them. Then you're going to make it. You're going to do it regardless. You won't need that part-time job because you will have imposed upon yourself the diligence and the dedication to your own career to make it a success. But if you think I always need health insurance, a regular paycheck, W-2, somebody else to give me the task, this career is going to be a hard one for that. So making yourself okay with saying, telling people that I am not getting where I want to go because XYZ thing is interrupting me in my way, or not being able to do this full time because I have these other obligations and they are more important to me than succeeding in real estate, there's your answer.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
When I got into it, I was 23 years old. I had just gotten out of college, still had student loans. I had a janky car. I had no money myself. I had just bought a house. I had graduated early, and so I had a tiny little nest egg saved up that I didn't spend on tuition because literally like I ate ramen through in college and worked while in school. And that was our closing costs. And so we like bought the only house we could afford, which was like a baby little house, and we had a roommate to help us afford it. Like we were scraping, but we bought it, and it was like, this is what we're doing. So we had just done all that, and so I had a mortgage, car payment, all this stuff. And I was
Yeah.
like, I hate my job. I could do almost anything else and make ends meet. So I am literally jumping in. And I had interviewed a couple of agents and they're like, oh, it's great. No boss. The harder you work, the more you make of it. And I'm like, this is my spirit, right? Like, as when you come from an immigrant family, it's not, we'll
You wanna
see
see the
how
fruit
it
of the labor.
goes.
Yeah.
No, we're doing this. This is the plan. We're going to execute. It's going to take us several
Yeah.
years sometimes
Sure.
to get here. My dad had a 25-year path to get to the
Yeah.
United States from the decision to come in the first
Yeah.
place. You set your plan, make your points, and you just follow that strategic outline
Totally.
and take no prisoners. And that's
Yeah.
all that you can do. And I didn't have any friends that had any money because they were all broke college kids too. I have no
Yeah.
family in town, right? Like we have no roots here. So
Yeah.
somebody who thinks I need to get a sphere first, or I need to have investment properties first, or I need to have a real estate degree, or those are all excuses. There are
Sure.
so many ways that a person can like dive in full, but you have to be
Yeah.
willing to do it, and you have to be willing to take the risk.
Yeah. So I'm resonating a lot with your story in the sense that I started out, I wasn't totally sure if I wanted to be in real estate, like I mentioned. And but I clearly also remember after about a year and a half of having that mental shift. Okay, if we're going to freaking do this, we're all in.
Mm-hmm.
Like we ain't messing around anymore. They're going to go all in and make it work, or I'm doing a different career path. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
So it was like the in between, but I had a part-time job. I was bartending, waiting tables, whatever, and did that for a couple years, and then eventually built up my business. As soon as I made that mental commitment and that shift, just like what you're talking about, boom, my business took off.
But you'll never get to a specific point until you've made that shift. Like you will only ever be able to do so much if you're straddling that line of like part-time job, full-time job, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And what I've been telling people lately is the real estate market has been very challenging for people for the last handful of years. It's not been easy to break into, and yet we have people who have broken in tremendously over the last few years into this industry. And next year is not going to be any easier. There's a lot of challenges in this career at the nationwide level, at the financial level, on a wide variety of different fronts. That doesn't mean we're not going to be successful. It just means you have to go harder and you have to be more diligent and you have to eliminate the excuses and you have to understand the fundamentals and be willing to do the most important things first. And I talked about how my path
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you just
Sure.
a second? I'd like to hear more about that, about the fundamentals. And what do you, is there something fundamental you think that like you do that are, say, ensure that your clients have a good experience in working with you?
Yeah.
Well,
For me, when it comes to the client experience, if I boil it way down, what I insist upon is that my clients feel like they be treated with respect, that they are the drivers, they are the decision makers. And I feel that anybody can make a good decision when they are presented with accurate information and appropriate advice. So we set up a dynamic where I am the consultant and the advisor. They're the decision maker. Almost invariably, they go the right direction. But it's
From a
not
good
because
advisor, they take good advice. That makes sense.
But it's not from a perspective where I say, oh, this is what you need to do. That's shortcutting the whole process. Instead, you are confronted with a fork in the road, and your fork has 4 tines on it this time. You can go down path A, B, C, or D. If you go down A, X, Y, Z. If you go down B, X, Y, Z. If you go down C, and so on. And so we explore all the different avenues. I present to them the risks and the opportunities with each one of those potentials, and then I let them choose. And of course, you frame things sometimes because sometimes we know our clients better than they know themselves. I'm sure you can walk into a house and be like, nope, they're not buying this one, like that. But sometimes they need to explore that for themselves.
Totally.
And being patient with them and respectful of their intelligence and their ability to make a good choice when you have identified for them all the different aspects, features, and opportunities of a path.
Right.
That's how you win somebody to, one, treat you like you are the expert and to trust your opinion and to not try to jump ship the moment something hits heavy water. And instead, and that's not to say you never make a mistake. I have had clients buy things. We have done everything right, and it was still a boondoggle.
Sure.
And sometimes we knew it was going to be a boondoggle, even while we were doing it, but it was worth it. And they were like, okay, I'm in, we're doing it, right? Like it can still happen that way. And they won't hold it against you because they were the decision makers, and they will still send you business. Even if they ended up having tens of thousands of dollars worth of repairs that were unexpected, they'll still say, I trusted you, you shepherded me, we did our best, we were a team, we did this together, I made all these choices. It ended up wrong. Now can you help me find the right expert to do X, Y, Z, whatever is the solution? So that is the biggest fundamental thing for me.
Yeah. Well, it's bringing up for me what I'm thinking about is many times when I've been out on showings with clients, we're looking at properties, we're looking at trying to consider pros and cons. And very much a lot of the time, I don't say hardly anything until the end.
Yeah.
And then it's because I'm trying to read my client. What are they responding to? What are they excited about? And am I listening to that? And am I hearing that? And then at the end, we have a very frank conversation, and they always ask my opinion. I'm happy to share that, but I don't want to interject or intercept their walkthrough, their experience, right?
Yeah.
So and I think that's, very much in line with what you're talking about. They're the driver ultimately. I mean, it's their house or their property. I can give advice, but what I think doesn't matter that much. I mean, it does, but at the end of the day, their key decision, they are in charge, absolutely, and they need to feel that. And I think that's been certainly something I've noticed too, as being successful and putting deals together. Is if I'm just going through and only I'm leading the walkthrough, am I putting their interest in it, and am I letting them have what is exciting to them, or am I just trying to highlight what I think is exciting?
Yeah, and I try to make it fun and educational for them. I fill in with anecdotes and stories that people connect with, and to help them understand. But part of my MO is if I'm going to charge what I'm going to charge, and I don't discount my value and my time, I expect them to respect my time, respect my value, but I also expect to have to back that up with providing value and service. And if they're coming to me for one of the more expensive transactions they're ever going to do in their life, which they're not going to do fairly frequently, and I tell people, I'm like, hopefully when we've gone through all this, you're going to stay for a good long time, because if not, then maybe something went sideways in our decision-making process, and I'll feel bad about that. I don't want to sell them a house for 3 years. I want them to sell a house they're going to be in for 10 years. And then they're just going to send me all their friends. But I feel it is reasonable for what we charge as agents for them to expect us to have an absolute handle on the economics of our country, what is going to happen to them financially, the different options that they will have for loans, because they will not necessarily get a full education about that from their lender unless you cherry pick your lenders too, for some that share your same ethos. And on top of that, they sure as hell should expect us to have a good fundamental understanding of the building systems that are the fundamentals of the property that they're buying. And they should be able to rely on us to explain different eras of construction, what it's going to mean for them, things that they should be watching out for. My goal is that they feel so solid about a house that they know the negatives when they're deciding to write the offer, that they're walking into it eyes wide open, and there are very few real surprises at the inspection. And because then the inspection doesn't shock them, doesn't surprise them, doesn't upset them, and instead supports my value because they already knew from me. So then when they see my commission on the Alta, they go, yeah, it was totally worth it. And I've had people, first-time homebuyers, who looked at it and went, huh, you lost money on this one, didn't you? Like, this is part of the process. You come into my sphere now, and we work hard for you now when it's your first little baby condo. Because I know that's not your only property that you're ever going to buy. And someday, 5-10 years from now, you'll be looking for my expertise again, and you'll value it again. And that's how this works. So that's the other fundamental piece to me, is you have to, as an agent, master what you are providing. It's not enough in this business to just be like, I'm going to socialize with people and show them stuff, and that's all, and I'm going to write offers and then collect my paycheck.
Mhm.
You're selling yourself from a career perspective short, but also your client short.
Yeah.
Instead, you should be like, they're going to be investing a lot of time, energy, and money with me in
Mhm.
this transaction. And there are lots of opportunities out there to go a cheaper direction in this business because commissions are negotiable. I work as an attorney. I see it
Yeah.
all the time because agents will send me
Oh,
FISBO deals
yeah.
where the FISBO seller, for example, needs some assistance. So I
Okay.
know what I charge for that versus what I charge as an agent. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll tell people, I'm like, you have a fork in the road. You can go this way or that way. And
Yeah.
I've even had a client, we went to school together. She's an attorney. And she was like, yeah, we could totally do this. And the husband was like, oh, no, we're not doing that. We're going this route. And she was like, okay, just telling you I could do it. And he was like, no, we're not. So you can tell
Yeah.
people like, these are your
Yeah.
options and have them still pick you
Yeah.
when they know they're going to get the value
Yeah.
for what they're paying, what you're making.
For sure.
And I feel like that is that second piece, that second fundamental piece
Yep.
that you have to acknowledge and understand and appreciate about this industry.
Yeah.
If
For
you want to
sure.
succeed. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Let's see. We've covered a lot of ground here, and I appreciate you so far. I guess I'd say, let's see. I did want to just touch maybe a couple of other questions. We don't need to go maybe quite as far, but maybe if I'd be curious to hear. You talked about your leads, or I don't know. I'd be curious to hear more about maybe if say I'm an agent and I want to double my business in the next year. How would I do that? Tell me more about maybe lead generation or database fundamentals, or how would
Sure.
you approach that if I'm an agent looking to double my business in the next year?
Yeah. So number one is look at yourself and figure
Mhm.
out what are the things that I bring to the table that are going to appeal to others who are looking for what I have to offer. And like I said earlier, you don't have to be all things to everybody. You just
No.
have to be you 100% and really effective at it.
Mhm.
You can be more like me where it's let's get into the weeds about all the details and I can do a pro forma for you and I can do analyses. That's me. If that's
Yeah.
not you and you try to fake that, you're never getting anywhere.
No.
Just I am not oh, look at how cute. Oh my God, that would just come across as so ungenuine that people would be like, what's her deal? But somebody else can be that like fuzzy, nurturing, and be totally genuine, and they will attract to them what they need from that. So it's first figure out who you are. Like, what is the business that you even want?
Yeah.
And then how do you put that out there as a message? What are you using to communicate to the people who need to hear about who you are at your fundamentals? And people don't pick their agent based off of their agent's resume. That's total BS. And it's funny because I'm very resume focused. I have one and I have all the things on it, but that's not how people choose me. Nobody's ever asked to see that. Never, not even once, right?
Mhm.
Instead, they connect with who I am as a person and what I express about my values. So I think about
Mhm.
who am I? What are my values? Who needs to hear what I bring to the table? And then how do I get in front of those people in a way that is the most natural for me as an environment? I don't work internet leads at all. I've done Zillow. I had a high hit rate. I hated everything about it. The having to be on call, like literally you have 15 seconds to answer this phone call. And then you have to be willing to have them stand you up. That's not me. Or having something come into my email. Oh, you got to like email this person for 6 months and they might use you or they might not. And you never know who this person is or if they even have a pre-approval, like that kind of stuff. That's not me. So I
Yeah.
don't do it.
There you go.
Instead, I know that I
And
need
yet there are agents out there that
Oh,
do
totally.
Zillow leads or other internet leads, and they're
Absolutely.
highly successful. So
They're great at it.
I
I would
know.
suck at it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not my thing because
Yeah.
I would never stick with that cold lead or even lukewarm lead long enough
Yeah.
to make it a warm,
Yeah.
like a warm or a hot lead. And
Yeah.
so I don't put any of my attention on there because it would be wasted attention. So
Sure.
instead I go, okay, I do really well with a particular type of clientele. They tend to be more educated. They are a little more demanding. They want a lot of the details. They're comfortable with analysis. So I know the personality type. And
Totally.
so then I think about what are the qualities and qualifications either for me as a person, my values, or my background that will
Mhm.
appeal to that person.
Mhm.
And then I don't go, you should use me because I have a thing. Instead, I just speak about the things in a way that demonstrates my expertise
Mhm.
in the spheres in which those people travel. So that's my MO for picking up people.
Totally.
And I will get referrals from people who've never used me, but they know me from those kinds of spheres. And then they know somebody, they go, oh, you need to work with this agent. I met her at an XYZ thing. Because I know for me, I'm better in person. I hate talking on the phone, but I will spend 4 hours with somebody at a buyer consult. I'll do that all day long on a Sunday. Don't care, because that's where I cement my relationship and demonstrate my expertise. So, everybody needs to figure out their own MO, the place where they will succeed the most highly in making connections with people. And if there are things that, and sometimes it helps to record oneself, do mock things with other agents, because sometimes when you play it back, you go, oh my God, why am I doing that thing? That thing that I'm doing that's an unconscious behavior is so off-putting, right? But if you see it and you're willing to look at yourself and watch them be critical, self-critical, then you go, okay, I got to root that out, because that's awkward. Don't do that anymore. And look at yourself that way and hone that skill. And what I'm telling people right now is learning the processes and all the stuff that goes in the background is very important, but that is secondary. Number one is going after the business so that you have the stuff to work on to generate that expertise from. When I was in law school, for example, I could afford to go to school 50 to 60 hours a week between class time, homework, tests, internships, etc., and still maintain 3-4 million in business at the same time during the Great Recession, because I had motivated my sphere. They knew what I was going through and were willing to work around me because they saw the value in my services, and they were willing to work around my schedule in order to get me. And you stay in front of people and you ask them for the business. That was my thing. I tell people up front, I'm going to lavish you with my love and attention while you're with me, and you will feel extremely well taken care of. And in return, I'm not going to spam you.
There you go.
And then you send me business. So once you have it in place, that you figure out what is the thing that is going to motivate people to send you business and use you. And then you do that very well, and you do that first. Then when you're done doing that, you will be motivated enough to do the other things. You will have the deals to work on that will cause you to go down the rabbit holes, that will help you learn the things that you will then impress future clients with. I did a whole thing about structural clay tile recently because it was a thing I came across, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Let me learn all that about that. Now that's a thing I can trot out because I went down the rabbit hole and I learned everything there is to know about that particular little thing with 1920s construction techniques, but it speaks to the expertise, right? That's part of my brand.
That's part of who you are. So that's something I think that's really something I'm all about too, even when we have new team members join us, is really crafting and writing their bio and their story. It is so powerful of why you. Tell me more about you as a person. Yeah, your resume might be a part of it. I believe anyway. I think some people look at that. At the end of the day, they do choose you and they want to know more about you. And I think that there's such a big opportunity out there. I know it always bothers me sometimes if I'm searching out to send a referral in another area, and I go on their website and they have nothing on their about page. It's their bio, who is this person? I don't even know who I'm sending them to. I'm not going to waste my time. So to me, I think spending some time, if you haven't already, I think really crafting that out, writing it out, sharing more pictures or images or video, even what it is, who you are, who you resonate with, who you work best with. People will be attracted to you. I know I remember an experience, it was maybe a year or two ago. I had a guy that I was talking to that actually it was a for sale by owner. He was trying to sell some land and was thinking about selling it, but not really sure. But anyway, he ended up interviewing me and read my bio, and he said he really was interested in it and attracted to working with me as an agent. And it was exactly that. It was out there, but also being true to who I was. It's not like I was trying to sugarcoat who I was. I showed up exactly who I was and trying to match those together. So it doesn't matter as much what you are, right? If you're a highly analytical versus a highly social person, or versus highly driven, or whatever it might be, I think it is, recognizing who you are. And in some ways, I think, you do need to be a little bit of a chameleon with your clients, right? You need to recognize maybe who they are and how you can best show up for them. I think is a big part of it. But
yeah, that's the thing, is it's always a two-way street, right? Like, we need to be ready to show up for our clients in the way that they need us to be there for them. Like, I'm a chatty Cathy, but I've had clients before where you could tell they were super introverted, and I'll be like about to take over, and then I have to go, okay, we're going to just bring the temperature down. We're going to slow down.
yeah,
More air in the conversation, and just match their
and
energy,
that's a
match their
skill that
spirit.
you can learn, and you have learned, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Well,
no.
and a lot of agents will get sucked into the stuff people can sell them. Think about your experience as an agent being marketed to, because we are consumers as well as salespeople. We are constantly being subjected to marketing for the next new best thing. It's always technology or systems or whatever. There's all this stuff that somebody
There's
wants
a
you
new
to
shiny
buy.
object around the corner, I promise.
Yeah, oh, this will be the thing that unlocks all the things. We're the next best website. Spend $300 with us this year. Like,
I think it's already in my books or one of yours on your shelf, right? Like, there's the idea.
do you know how much difference any of those things make? It's like this much. Like, that's the like gravy you smear on top when you've done all the other things, and you've got to mess around, because all you have to do is go to the NAR's profile, buyers and sellers. Go to the, like, oh, I want to appeal to buyers. How should I do it? Is it social media boosted advertising? No. So that's not the first thing I do. Instead, you go, oh, where did people find their people? Friends and family, coworkers, neighbors. It's a personal business where they need to know you, trust you, and then you go to the next section. What were the values that were important to them at the time that they made the decision? It wasn't they were technologically savvy and texted me back at midnight. No, it's not about your bot. It's I felt I could trust them, and they had good advice about the area, the market, whatever it is. Pick the top 6 things of each category. That's where your business is. The rest is like 2%. 3%. So you master who you are, how you communicate about it. You find who it is that you need to get in front of. Which of those things were the things that were important to them, and how do you represent that in their life? And then you just do it very well and diligently. So don't screw it up.
There it is.
Yeah.
Cool. We've been chatting for quite a while. I thought maybe we could wrap things up. I guess one thing I do want to ask is I'm a big reader, obviously, so I always want to ask any recommended books that you would recommend for anyone out there, or other tools or systems, maybe shiny objects that are actually worth it. Some of those things. What would you say about any of that stuff?
If somebody else resonates to the way that I build my business, which is pretty much referrals past clients and their sphere, Ninja Selling.
Okay.
The book
Ninja Selling
is basically it. Yeah. And I sit through all kinds of stuff. Like, even 24 years in, I still go to conferences. I still sit through people's webinars, mostly because I find it's a good time for me to set aside all the other piles on my desk and like just listen to somebody talking about business and think of how I might apply it myself, whether I do everything they do or not. Or sometimes listen to them and I go, oh, hell no, that's so not me. Hey, now I know. One more data point. But his MO most dovetails with our business building and how we maintain it. Totally. So basically we do that, and then we do personal reach outs. My people know they can call me anytime about anything. After the closing, I go visit people 5 years after they bought a house. They have no intention of moving at all, but they are in an argument as to whether they should go with the purple accent wall or the brown. I'll be like, hey, invite me over. I'll be the tiebreaker. Why not? Yeah. And I'll drive an hour out of my way to do that. So for us, it's the personal reach outs to the people who are our most enthusiastic supporters, and reminding them that we are here, we're open for business, and we love them. So that's basically it. And Ninja Selling is very good about that, because it's all about providing value. Providing value, building personal relationships. I'm familiar with Larry and his book and a lot of their systems. And I don't read, honestly, I don't read a lot of business books. I had to read way too much for school already. But when I do consume business related stuff, it's that I also spend a lot of time keeping up on the markets, making sure that I understand some of those more technical aspects. And it's a constantly changing sphere. Like I said, when I got in this business, we had dial-up internet and we had to share the workroom computer. Things have changed so much since then.
Oh, yeah. There's so much out there, totally.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of work to keep on the forefront of it.
Yeah.
And you will often be the person who knows more about those things and whether they're good for your client or bad for your client. Like, does Matterport make a difference? I don't know. Your client certainly doesn't know. You have to have an opinion on it. Is the market going to go up or down, and why? And we as professionals need to know that, because we need to be able to plan for our coming year. And you need to start planning for pumping out that marketing the quarter before they need to be hearing about it, because it takes a while to get things up and ready, and it takes a while to get that momentum. And so you have to be always thinking about those things ahead of time and being ready to activate on a timely manner. So
couldn't agree more. That's one of the things we also tell agents when they first join our team is when someone says, how's the market? You better have a better answer than, it's good, I think. I don't know. Like, we need to be experts. We need to show up as having a credible answer, memorizing or knowing about recent market trends or shifts, or interest rates doing what. Do you know some of that stuff? Not just know it. I can look it up, but do you know at least a handful of a few key stats that you can share to continue that dialogue, and then also earn the trust of that potential client to go to that next level. So,
real estate and the market is hyper local. You can't share any national models because it's not relevant. What's happening in Austin is very different than what's happening in Phoenix, which is different than what's happening here. And there are a lot of places where one can get graphs that look cute and are easy to share. But if you don't understand the information in the graph, you're going to fall on your face as soon as somebody wants to have a conversation about it. So to me, it's you need to, if you look at a graph and you don't understand what it means for your consumer, you need to do the work to understand it. That's where you really will gain the most value. It's not the just can share, repost, repeat thing. It's the, now I understand a little bit more about the treasury bond, right? So when I say treasury bonds go up and down and so do interest rates,
exactly.
That's not enough. You can't just reshare stuff that you don't have a reasonable understanding of, because they're going to ask us to synthesize those things. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Jean, I really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing so much insight and wisdom, and just radiating some great energy for our listeners today. Just thought we'd wrap it up, and I appreciate you coming on. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right. You're listening to the Better Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Lavik, and here's our end of the episode.
Thanks for tuning in to the Better Agent Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned for more tips, Q&A sessions, and sneak peeks into our 21-day challenge. To get full access of our show notes and more details on the 21-day challenge, go to abetterrealestateexperience.com. Keep striving for greatness, and I'll see you on the next episode.